First of all, welcome to this channel, guys. This is a restart of the podcast, the Suddenly Tenno Podcast. We're doing a bit of a revamp for the actual podcast itself, since we used to do the podcast and then we stopped for a while because of, real life commitments and all that kind of stuff. But we are all in a, stable condition to actually do them again. And we actually have another person actually joining us today, which is Nesomeer. Some of you may have heard of him. Other people may have not heard of him yet, but you will hear of him by the end of this stream at the very least.
He's a bastard.
Well, there is that too. So just quick introductions for people who don't know who people are on the podcast. There's me, Frozen Balls, who is hosting this podcast itself. Then we have Headshot, we have TacticalPotato, and then we have Nesomeer, all YouTubers. And as you can see on the stream, you'll be able to see all of their details, like the YouTube links, Twitter links, and all that stuff, and their favorite frames. Mac, just another point. I was gonna make your Nova. I was gonna make your Nova completely pink, but I decided against it because it actually made me sick, so I couldn't physically do it. So
I'm
you're kind of lucky.
Trinity main.
You don't run Trinity. You haven't run Trinity in ages.
You say that, but I looked at your profile. Nova's your most used player, most used frame. So
that was back when I used the Soma. Those were dark days. You don't talk about that.
All right, so just a quick recap from the last conversation we had. The last podcast that happened. Oh my god, I completely forgot. This bot is gonna go crazy. 1 second. Okay, there you go. Just a quick recap from the last time we did the podcast. We talked about the update 18 stuff that had just come out, like the what's it called?
Second Dream.
Second Dream. That's the one. I completely forgot the name. Yeah.
How could you forget about that?
That's the most important thing ever in Warframe.
Because it was a dream. You people should know I have bad memory issues, okay? I forget people's names. I mean, your name is pops back, right, Headshot?
Yeah, clearly.
So, the last topic we talked about was the second dream. We were discussing about, how the stream, how the actual quest was done, the cinematics, the actual, rewards out of it, and the lower implications of the actual thing itself. It was a good discussion we had, and that was kind of like all she wrote. So this is kind of like a rework of, coming back into it and talking about all of that stuff. But so before we actually talk about the important stuff, let's just do a quick recap of all the stuff which we've seen up till now from, when we did the last podcast. Out of that list, we have a bunch of things like Lunaro, Spectres of the Rail, Silver Grove, Prime Access packages. We have the Endo update, so all of those have come out. So before I even jump into it, let's just talk about each topic as we go through it. First of all, Lunaro. So I'm sure everyone here has had a chance to play Lunaro, because when we saw the trailer for it, we saw it and it looked a lot like it was going to be something like Rocket League. And people who've played Rocket League know exactly how much fun that game is. Now, what we saw and what we played is obviously quite a bit different, because, Warframe added its own version of it and they added their own twist to the game itself. So, what are your thoughts on it?
Gimmick.
As a word, one word sum up, a gimmick is definitely what it ended up being. It was a cool concept to the game mode, and when you actually get a decent host, actually it's kind of fun to play. But I don't know. I just think it's one of those things that was kind of designed to keep people busy, but just never really did it.
Yep. I think it was basically, like I said, gimmick. It was one of these kind of jump on the bandwagon of Rocket League, have some fun, hopefully people will play it and it will catch on, and it didn't really catch on. There was too many issues when it first launched with regards staggering people, and then people having net issues and stuff like that, and I don't think it's ever going to catch on. It's probably just going to be the same as Conclave. Some people will like it, some people won't, some people will play it, a lot of people won't, so...
I enjoyed Conclave a lot more than that, that's for sure. And I was fucking promised Quidditch. We didn't get no fucking Quidditch.
Okay, it's funny you say that. I was talking about Headshot about this earlier on about Lunaro, and the biggest issue for me for Lunaro is that while it's a fun concept as a game, it is very apparent that because of the kind of game it is, you need to have dedicated servers for it. Because if you can't do a peer-to-peer setup for a game which require, or where it's basically the first person to touch the ball or the host who has no lag issues whatsoever will end up picking up the ball or knocking the ball out of people's hands or scoring the ball and all that kind of stuff. In a game like that, it is more important to have dedicated servers for something like that. With Conclave, you can still kind of get away with it because, you know, with peer-to-peer and, you know, if you take into player scale and all that kind of stuff and weapons and all that, you know, it still kind of works. You can still get away with it. Like when you have a good host on PvP, you can still have a good match. I know because I've done a lot of PvP, and whether we, you know, cheese the skills now, cheese the challenges or whatever, but I've actually done PvP in the past as well. So it's just one of those things where this doesn't really work in the current setup that we have for it, which kind of is a shame because it has so much potential and it just did not work out.
It might be worth checking out again when they do the dedicated server things, when that finally rolls out. I'm going to ask about that at some point and see what they say.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch it until then because, like, you're all from EU. Most of the people I play are from EU, but I'm in fucking the middle of the desert in America. You know, I can't exactly enjoy the Naru with people I play with.
All right, so the next topic that we want to just talk about is Spectres of the Rail. That is, for all intents and purposes, the star chart rework that we got. Now, before I even talk about this one, let me just say it was kind of an interesting... Well, I am talking about it, never mind. It is a very, you know, like, it's kind of nice the way they've done the star chart rework, but at the same time, it's got a little bit of an issue where while the star chart rework kind of, you know, favors new players and people who are still kind of going through the progression of the system, it doesn't really do much for people who are at an end game stage. So without actually complaining about it, I'll just talk about the actual system. The actual system, the progression is linear, and you've got, you know, you go from point A to B to C to D, and it's like that complete progression, and it leads you through the entire star chart, and it kind of says you do all these missions, and you get rewarded for it, and of course they also tied in the whole relic system as well into it, or the key system and all that kind of stuff itself. So yeah. 1 second, guys. Voice issue apparently. Just turn it up a little. Let me just quickly ask them and see what they're saying.
Suddenly it got quiet. Everybody whisper now, so he has to adjust it again.
Only putting up and down my e-seg, man. I don't want to make noise.
I just turned up your volumes a little bit more so that, you know, they can hear you a bit better. I'm guessing it's probably me being very, very loud. But yeah.
You loud? Never.
Never.
No, you know.
Yeah, I know. I can't help it. It's just, it is what it is.
But yeah, with the new star chart, like I didn't particularly mind it. My issue is I'm pretty dumb with dealing with it, and I would really appreciate something where you can add favorites, like the usual maps you go to, because I hate clicking it and like I have to look for it specifically. I mean, you can kind of remember, but at the same time, you got to zoom out, zoom in, and sometimes it bugs on me. And I get frustrated with it at times, and I just can't find anything. But I thought I'd get used to it by now, but I'm still not used to it.
You're just a lazy bastard.
I was gonna say the same.
That's
Fuck
it.
you.
That's just
Dude,
it.
It's true, but still.
Hey,
Look, it's good for new players. If you're looking at the new star chart, it's always going to be good for new players because the previous version we had was very confusing. You didn't know where to go next or which mission was your next in line, whereas now you've got links between each mission. So it's going to be good for those. So it's anything that can help new players, I guess, better understand where they're going and what missions to do. I can't really complain too much about. It looks pretty as well, so there's always that.
It looks pretty, and I mean the junction fights were kind of cool as well.
The junctions are still a bit fucking broken, though, aren't they?
I was about to ask, did they fix it? Because I couldn't
thought
do
they
any
fixed
of my
it.
junctions.
No, I'd seen a guy commenting on one of my videos the other day saying that he still couldn't do one of the junctions. That every time he killed the actual Spectre in the junction, and then went back out, it would still say he needed to go and kill it, and he's killed it several times. So I haven't touched mine for a while because of it.
I have no idea. I managed to complete them all, so that must have got broken somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I think that might be a one-off case. Because I never actually had that issue, but I suppose they could always try, you know, putting in like a support ticket for it, so to kind of see if it actually is still broken or not. Yeah. The only thing with the Spectres of the Rail, like, which I kind of do like about it is, even from a veteran's perspective, is it kind of ties in with the whole, prime farming thing, where you don't have to do one specific node anymore. Like, you don't have to have like keys which take you to one specific thing. You can play any node, and you can still be rewarded for playing any node of your preference. Like, for example, I like playing, survivals. I can now play any survival against Grenier, Corpus, or whatever, wherever the fishes show up, and I can do those missions and still get the prime parts that I want out of it. So in that sense, I really do like the new Star Chart rework itself. But again, it's more or less geared towards newer players, so it kind of works very well for them. I think the next topic we'll just quickly skim over is the Silver Grove. Now, I'll be honest, I've been a bit busy recently, so I haven't actually had a chance to actually finish off the quest itself. But I'm guessing you guys must have done the quest. What do you guys think of the quest itself for the Titania Warframe?
I didn't mind. It wasn't anything special. I liked a little bit of lore.
There's no different in Aros' one, really, was it? Just a small bit of lore. That's it.
A little bit of lore and a lot of grind.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of it.
Yeah, fucking flower picking. Yeah, it's always fun.
I was gonna say, like, in today's episode, a colorblind guy scans plants.
Telling me.
Yeah, Max colorblind as well. So
there's two people here I can mark now.
I legitimately got, like, for the Moss, I legitimately got my next door neighbour in to come and act as a spotter for me.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So he could point out
it was really
when
tedious,
it was flaring
though.
up on the scanner. It is tedious. It's boring. It's tedious, and Warframe is a fast-paced game. So let's just slow it down and have everybody scan plants.
Yeah, let's admire the floor a little bit,
That's amazing.
And some of the flora, that cliff moss, like Headshot said, even if you weren't colorblind, it was still fucking hard to see.
Yeah.
Like the scanners didn't pick it up at first. When you were looking at the scanners, sometimes it gets highlighted. It wasn't being highlighted for us, so we end up had to just run into the cliff faces and try and see if there was some of that fucking weird looking jizz on the fucking cliffs.
Yeah, it looked like pigeon shit on the floor. Like I thought it was just part of the map, man. I thought pigeons flew higher.
That's amazing. I should actually do the quest now as well, just to see how much pain you guys went through it, and then after a couple of times decide if I can be asked with doing this or not.
Well, to be honest, the thing is, you need those to get the new aura mods, and some of them are pretty decent. So you kind of want to do like far more of those flowers and do everything again.
Hey Mac, my platinum balance says otherwise. I'm just gonna buy it for platinum. Fuck that. If the grind is too high, I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah, I mean, I bought them. I mean, like, the usual people, the players in the community, they'll have to do it again.
No, we went and we got the Stand United one.
Yeah.
We didn't buy the Stand United one. We got
you don't have the power one. The power one is the one I really want.
I got the power one. I found it.
I went and farmed them all, and fuck that. Like, the RNG is like, you've still got the RNG involved. I mean, we still did it with Necros and Hydroids, and even pure slash weapons to try and cut them up into little bits.
Get as many as possible, yeah.
And you would get 90% of everything you don't need. So, I mean, it's still the RNG.
That kind of describes the whole game in general, though, doesn't it?
Well, this is true. Yeah. But to be honest, like, the lore of the quest, actually, I quite enjoyed.
Yeah.
Actually, I won't go into anything because it's spoilery, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they should. I mean, I like the fact, like, their new frames, they're doing lore. I mean, it's what the community wants, is more lore on everything. Now, hopefully, the Twin Queens will be, like, more of a global type of lore to wrap everything up.
Okay, so let's just talk about the next topic real quick. Just the last two topics before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of it. Prime accesses, obviously, since update 18 dropped, we've seen quite a bunch of prime accesses drops. We had Vauban, we've had Siren as well, and then we had this one, the Necros one that just dropped as well, like a few weeks back. And, they all came with their own set of weapons. They all came with their own set of prime accessories as well. And I'll be honest, I liked all of the Prime Access packs, like all the frames that got Prime Access, and, like the Christy Mac Prime, the Necros one, which looks a bit like Necron, and, all that stuff. But my only disappointment with the Necros one is that it was a Tigris Prime. That is all. I was honestly...
Yeah, the one weapon I don't think we needed.
Yeah, exactly. The one weapon I don't think we really needed. I think we could have done with something else, like a Tiburon Prime or something. That was my only concern about this whole thing. Galatine Prime, because I love it. I can channel my inner He-Man and yell, I have the power at the top of my voice every time I pull out the sword. But other than that, it was just one of those things. We already have a powerful shotgun. We have other weapons that could have done with some love. Tiburon Prime, for example. I would have loved to have seen that one. Or something else. I don't know. Like a Piranha Prime.
Bow.
But again, though, Galantine Prime, cut and paste stats of just like everything, like every other crit weapon in the game. Why have we got another crit weapon? The Galantine's not a crit weapon. What did we really need another crit weapon?
We didn't have a big sword.
When it comes to Prime Access, they have to sell the Prime Access somehow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it has to be a favorite weapon. It has to be a weapon that people actually want. You're not going to see. I know you can't prime a Kraken, but you're not going to see a fucking Kraken primed. Do you know what I mean? Even though it'd have to be a Wraith. But
like,
you know what I mean? They're not going to give us a shit weapon that's primed. Just say, hey, go guys, because who's going to look at that and go, paying money?
Yeah, I'm not saying like it has to be, a terrible weapon. Like the Galantine's fine. Did it have to be crit? Why couldn't it have been massive elemental damage with decent channeling damage, for example? Make a channeling weapon that's actually good and strong. Did it have to be another crit weapon? Which, I mean, how many crit weapons have we had in the last few Prime Accesses? They've all been.
I mean,
I can't remember a Prime Access where it hasn't been a crit melee.
It kind of rolls back to what Potato just said about, fan favorites. Case in point with the Nova Prime Access, when that came out, no one expected it, but it happened because it was a cash cow. And since
because Nova was popular.
Yeah, exactly. And Warframe is a free-to-play game, so it has to make money somewhere, right? So from that aspect, from the marketing aspect, I completely understand it. And, it's a decision which I'm not really fussed. It's not something which I'm complaining about. But I guess my personal wish of something else, like a weapon which wasn't given that much love, would have been, something which I would have preferred more than anything else. So I guess that's just a personal complaint more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm just fed up of every weapon being a crit weapon, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the frustration from my point of view. It's just...
we can talk about that frustration with one of the other topics in it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think what Dave said is correct, though. I think the profile icon should also be part of the accessories package, though. I would like to for example, you don't have, so that way you don't have to pay £90 or whatever it is for the full package if you don't want to, because some people want to actually farm for the stuff in order to get the parts, and that gives them some sense of accomplishment and something.
But that's just the same as the vaults. That's the same as like everyone has all of the primes from the vault, but when they release the accessories with them, you still have to spend the money and get an extra fucking frame if you just want those accessories, like the Misa Prime Sayandana and that. That's why they're packaging it all together. So you're gonna have to fucking pay it. They're not gonna reduce the cost. Like it's all about money.
Yeah.
Don't kid yourself and thinking it's not.
Speaking of profile icon, does anyone still get annoyed by the fact that your spray has to be what your profile icon is? Because I hate that.
Yeah, I'd like to have two separate ones.
That would what's the next quality of life. All right, last topic before we talk about the main stuff. Endo update. The Fusion Core rework happened. It basically meant that it's a bit easier to actually level up your mods now, and it actually is a bit more straightforward process as compared to what it used to be before, where you depending on what kind of mod you're trying to level up to what rank. Like for example, in my case, I've got a blind rage which is max rank, then a rank 8, rank 7, and a rank 5. I've got fleeting expertise which is max rank 4, rank 3, rank 2. So like I've had all these multiple mods. So when you're leveling up mods like that, you don't want to end up spending extra fusion cores so that you level it up just one level before the next rank, because that's just a waste of fusion cores. I mean, when you're at an end game stage or something like that, it doesn't really matter because you have so many fusion cores to begin with. But, from a new player's perspective, or even someone who's, started the game and is fairly into the game, that's still a lot of, fusion cores which they could have used for something else. So with the new Endo system, it actually is kind of kinder on newer players, and it's slightly cheaper as well as compared to, the previous system in terms of updating mods and all that kind of stuff. So I think the Endo system kind of is better, and it's kind of like a welcome change itself. But to summarize everything that we've seen so far in, all the patches and all the updates for Warframe, like the biggest underlying statement for this is that update 19 to this point, what we've seen of this update so far is all mechanical updates, mechanical overhauls for the game, which was needed. it was needed for the simple reason that, you know, there were a lot of discrepancies and a lot of other issues with the game itself where, you know, it didn't feel it was all connected. Now you've got you've got a semblance of a flow for the entire game where, you know, this is coming from like a new perspective, or, you know, like again, this is mostly from a newer player's perspective, not a veteran's perspective. So it has that flow. You've got the fusion core system, you've got the relic farming system, you've got the endo system, you've got PvP updates, you've got daily sorties which you can do. You can do you can do your syndicate farming, and you've got all of these things which on a daily basis, as someone pointed out, I think it was TGDM, who said that you can basically do all of this stuff, and on a daily basis, on a day-to-day activity, you have 8 hours worth of content to do on a daily basis for Warframe. Now, having said that, let's jump into the actual thing itself. We have all of this content right now that's thrown at us. We have, you know, the sorties, we have all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, as a veteran, I don't feel compelled to do any of this stuff. Now,
because it's not rewarding.
Exactly.
The rewards suck.
Where's their carrot on a stick, man?
Exactly. Warframe, just like any other game, needs to have some sort of incentive for players to play. It's one of the reasons why I hear so many veterans that get frustrated with Warframe, frustrated about the fact that there are things there isn't things for them to do. Like, I have this issue with my own clan members right now. I have issues with friends. You guys have the same issues as well, where there isn't enough to do. There isn't any incentive to log into Warframe to do it. Like, I play Warframe, like, say, for example, when I'm streaming, I play Warframe because I'm in the mood to play Warframe with, you know, my community or with friends and just have a laugh. But even then, that's only for a couple of hours, and that's it. I don't want to play Warframe again. I want to go play, like, Ark, which I'm currently, you know, on a massive bender on, or, you know, DC Universe, or anything else, Battlefield 1. Hell, I want to give WoW a try at this point, you know, because I keep hearing about it, and I don't like those kind of games, to be honest. It's all these...
Like you said...
Sorry, go on.
Well, like you said, with the end game, there has to be some kind of incentive or some kind of drive for older players. Like, at the minute, it's fine for new players. Like, it's been pointed out that there's hundreds of weapons for new players to aim towards. There's hundreds of frames for new players to aim towards. They have to get as much endo as possible to level up all the rare mods that they don't have, that they're going to get eventually. And so once they've got loads of content and loads of stuff to do to get to the stage that we're all at now, and that loads of veterans are at, and like, I guess it's probably hitting us harder because we're content creators, so we're constantly playing the game. You're also constantly editing or streaming and so on, so you don't get as much downtime as other players would get, or normal people, I guess you could call them. But when veterans jump into the game now, and you've already got the majority of weapons in the game, you've already got the majority of Warframes, you've already got as many mods as you could fucking possibly need, you don't need anything else, you've got hundreds of thousands of resources, then what do you actually have to aim for? What's your actual target? You don't really have one. You know, like sorties, we all thought was going to be incredible. We'll get something really nice out of them, but you're getting lenses, you're getting weapons that we already had, like rate weapons that most veterans have. So it's not really that's not aimed at us. That's aimed at newer players again, the rate weapons and that. But there's nothing for us to actually look at and think, oh man, I really want to do that because I want to get the reward at the end of that and to show that I get that. Even if it was a stupid bloody profile icon or something, or even emblems or something to actually say that you took part in this event, or I don't know. There's definitely something lacking for veterans to do right now that we don't really have anything to aim for. So you log on, you do a few missions to do dailies, or you farm a weapon once or twice, and then you log straight back off. Do you know? So I don't know what the other guys feel about it. I know Headshot has a strong opinion on it as well, though.
I do, and the rewards, like I say, they don't entice people to log in and to do things. Like, okay, I mean, you mentioned that, you know, we haven't got a lot of time to just sit down and play, but then I'm not enticed to go and do the sorties. Do I really want a part for a weapon that I formed 3 years ago? Nobody wants, like, that benefits people that missed it in the first place. The lenses, look at it this way. You get one of each lens per sortie rotation, which is 1 month. So to get one greater lens, that's going to take you 4 entire rotations, 4 months of sorties to get one greater lens. And if you want 3 greater lenses for your different bits of gear to really focus into that bit of focus, that's a year's worth of sorties. Like, that isn't an incentive for people. Like, at this point, I would rather have a button that I could just click. Like, I don't care about lenses. I would rather go and farm prime parts, sell the prime parts, and buy a greater lens for 40 plat. Because that's what they essentially devalued the lenses as soon as they put the greater ones on the market. So I would much rather do that, and I would rather have a tick box at this point that would turn everything off on the rewards, and I could just focus on endo, for example. So I could max out prime mods or whatever. If I don't care about the weapon parts, I don't care about the lenses. Like, maybe at the cost of forfeiting the legendary core, just have it so you can just turn everything else off and focus on endo. Like, at the moment, and to be honest, that would get me playing and doing the sorties again. But the sorties right now, and I just hate some of these conditions as well. Like, the conditions drive me mental. Like, yesterday we had sniper only sortie on excavation against the corpus. So yeah, snipers versus nullifiers, GG. So
yeah.
And
we've all been asking for how long now for snipers to be able to penetrate a fucking bubble, and they still haven't.
Yep. Like today's one, you've got enemy elemental resistance, and I don't know whether people actually like run that sortie. Even any idea how ridiculously difficult it is to kill a Bursa when it's got elemental resistance? I can't be bothered with that. I don't have time to. I just can't be bothered for a lens. I don't know. Sorties frustrate the hell out of me. They always have done. They're not the high level. They're not the end game content that people think they are.
Sorry, Matt. Go on. What were you saying?
Sorry, Matt.
No, that's fine. I was you, but the thing about sorties, it also shows like the scaling, which they have addressed. They're gonna deal with scaling eventually, whenever they get around to it. And they've been working on the core game itself, but not anything for us. Like with sorties, like if they added arcanes as a rare drop, I would actually do sorties. That's something I want. Arcanes, even if I don't use it, that's money. But the weapons we have, like I'll do sorties if someone needs it. Someone needs the parts, I'll help them out. But outside of that, I don't see myself doing it. Plus, the fact is, it's the same thing. It's just it's scaled higher. We have to deal with that. Then you get enemies that are just dumb, just like you said, the Bursa, or you get the infested guy. I can't think of his name right now. The Behemoth or Juggernaut. Yeah, where it used to be you could just bounce stuff and hit him in the belly, kill it quicker, but now it's just a bullet sponge, and you're just sitting there waiting for him to do mechanics. Like they need to work on some of this AI. Like they add stuff and they have invulnerability phases to things for whatever reason, just to waste their time on a quick-paced game. There's no point in doing that.
There's one thing that kind of, on the topic about scaling and everything, like ever since this patch has dropped, ever since like the update 19 has dropped, what I've seen, like I've been complaining about it for quite some time. People already know who's been to my stream before and even on my Discord. They know I've been complaining about scaling for a long time, especially since I used to do endurance runs with Headshot. And, you know, we've been complaining about that topic. Now, from what I've seen and what I keep hearing about, like they're currently working on the rebalancing stage on, you know, it's basically being worked in waves. Unfortunately, my original idea was that it needs to be looked at all at the same time. Unfortunately, when it comes to actually implementing it, it won't actually work that way. You have to kind of do it in stages, which means that even though they will look at it overall, the actual updates or the changes which will come in stages. Now, the problem is that DE has this issue against cheese. You can't remove cheese if your enemies are just as cheesy. That will, you know, cheese begets cheese begets cheese. It's kind of like that. And you just kind of, it's just like it's just one of those endless loops. That's all it is. So if you want to fix, you know, people from using cheesy methods for playing a game, you need to look at your enemies as well, because with just how powerful we are as Warframes, there are enemies that are built, you know, to counter them using cheesy methods. Now, you fix that, you fix the other issue. So it's just one of those things, like you can't fix that all together. So with Warframes being changed, Trinity got changed, Mag got changed, there are other Warframe changes coming in, and I'm sure, you know, as we go through them, Press for the Win, things are going to be changed as well. So it's one of those things we kind of have to look at it. Now, one of my other issues in terms of balance was how, you know, like Headshot was talking about crit weapons itself. Like we've got the difference between a crit weapon and a status weapon is so high that in any situation there is no reason to play with a status weapon, because a crit weapon just outperforms it by 10 times. Like, why would you choose to use a Mitre in a sortie when you can take a Tonkar, do an AoE critical explosion, doing 250k damage per shot in an AoE radius versus a Mitre which does 1000 damage to an enemy which probably has armor, so it ends up actually doing only 10 damage. So it's just one of those things. Like, there is no reason to use anything apart from crit, which is why whenever people ask me what's my favorite weapon, I just say, take a crit weapon, whichever crit weapon you choose, that's my favorite weapon. That's why. It's simple as that.
And then you have elemental weapons beyond, like, beneath the status weapons as well, like the pure elementals.
I would say, though, about status weapons, the Pox is a good example of a status weapon that can keep up with a crit weapon. Yeah. It's just, it ticks so fast, and it does status applications really fast. It's good. But we don't
have... You're going to get nerfed.
We have all these weapons that are status, but they're slow as fuck. Like melee weapons, as fast as you can get it, it's nowhere near the Pox.
Yeah. To just quickly bring it back to the actual topic itself about, veteran content and stuff like that. I mean, we've got all of these different things. We've got the sorties and all that kind of stuff, but because it doesn't incentivize us as veteran players to play them, we don't do them, and then we're basically at a stage where, DE, please, where's our content? It's one of those things. Sorties came out. I did them for 1 week, and I have not touched sorties since then. I do them once or twice here and there, like maybe once a week. If I'm bored enough to do it, I do them. Or if I'm playing on stream and I'm like, shit, I don't want to do fishes anymore, let's do sorties. Like, I guess I could do a sortie, fine. It's like one of those kind of things. I don't actually bother doing sorties because I have no patience for it. I do PvP, I have all the skins, so that's my PvP quota done. I do raids, I got all the important arcanes I wanted from it. I don't do raids anymore, apart from when my clan members have just started doing them again. And even then, I barely join them because, time constraints, or I just can't be asked, plus arc. But, it's just one of those things that we need some sort of incentive. Now, there was this topic of the Bratton Vandal and the Leto Vandal issue that was brought up, right? The issue, someone mentioned on the forums that those weapons should be put into the login reward system, and instantly my brain thought to me, fuck that. You know why? Because I already have those weapons. So you want to put a weapon into a login reward system, which, takes 100 days to get something, and I'm just going to get something I already have? Nah, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to even incentivize me to actually log into the game anymore. So it's one of those things. These kind of systems need to be looked at, and there needs to be some sort of, like Max said, carrot on the stick, which incentivizes and keeps the attention of veterans. Because here's the thing: if veterans leave, there's not going to be people to teach newer players. There's not going to be people who's going to be pumping money into this game, which is like a snowball effect, which will kind of cause a game to die.
The thing is, like,
let me just say one more thing. There's another thing I want to point out, which happened recently. Some people may or may not know this. At least people who played Firefall will know this, exactly what I'm talking about. Warframe has been doing a lot of content and, core system mechanic reworks. And so far, because they've had the success, it's kind of worked out for them and they're going fine. Look at what happened to Firefall. That game went through development hell. It went through so many reworks. It's dead now. You don't believe me? Go to Steam and check it. It's dead. No one logs on. No one plays it. It's completely dead.
Yeah, they changed the complete core mechanics, and they changed the game completely from the bottom up on more than one occasion.
Yeah, but the thing is, Warframe is very close to doing what.
I know. As soon as the quote from Total Biscuit probably describes it perfectly. I think I seen that comment on Headshot's video. Someone said that Total Biscuit described Warframe as a castle built on top of the ruins of a castle that came before it, that was built on top of the ruins of the castle that came before that. So basically all those fucking ruined castles are all the previous versions of certain items, or not items, but certain parts of the game, like Melee 1.0, Melee 2.0, and Star Chart 1.0, 2.0, all that sort of stuff. So if it does keep changing to kind of refresh things to keep players interested, then eventually players are going to become disinterested, because they're going to be like, oh, here we go again, another fucking change, just when we're getting used to all the stuff we have already. So yeah, exactly. I'll agree with you on that.
We have to be at a stage now, Warframe has to be at a stage now where they are like, okay, this is the finalized core mechanics of the game. Let's actually start developing content for veterans. Let's start developing content for newer players, which doesn't involve changing the core mechanics of the game yet again. Now, on the topic of core changes, we had the Arcwing changes for movement, right? But with the Arcwing changes, we didn't actually get a rework of the tile set for the trench runs. Now, people who've done the trench runs in the new system itself, good God, It is absolutely atrocious. You know, like you slam into walls because the corridors are so small. It can be an absolute nightmare trying to, go through those tunnels. It's just absolutely horrendous. But on the flip side, you go into an asteroid map and it's fucking fantastic. I love Arcwing on an asteroid map. It is so much fun to play. It is so much fun to just fly around and be like an actual spaceship shooting shit and killing everything. So, it's kind of like half-assed kind of things. And it's the same thing with the JV raid, for example. Going into the tunnels is annoyance. It's a serious annoyance with Arcwing right now, which is another reason why I stay the hell away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But instead of, do you not think, I don't know about the guys in chat what they think, but instead of putting all of this time that they're obviously putting into making all of these different mini games and mini versions of games and different aspects of the game, would it not be nice for it to just settle down and focus on getting something for the whole player base to aim towards in the actual core game? Like the game itself is, like, there's a lot of parts of the game, missions that are basically a horde mode. Defense missions are technically a horde mode. Survival missions would technically be some variation of a horde mode where there's waves and waves of enemies coming at you. So could they not implement something where you'd actually have a little bit of an extra challenge added into one of those, whether it was a boss spawn and then not fucking Corrupted Vor that dives inside 5 seconds with one Tonko shot or one Tigris shot to his nuts and he's fucking dead, but one that actually gives a bit of a challenge and that gives you some kind of meaningful reward or something from it, instead of putting time into making Lunaro or fucking Archwing or fucking Flappy Zephyr and all those other bloody things. Can we not just get something for? And it's not just veterans that would be aiming for this. Like, you would start off as a new player and that would be your end goal. You'd be looking at those types of missions as, I need to get my frame leveled up and formatted. I need to get my weapons formatted so as I can eventually do that with my friends and I can go, or with my clanmates, and I can go and I can do those types of missions. Instead of, like, right now they're focusing a lot on new players, which is fine because the new player experience was fucking ass.
Yes.
But now it's a lot better.
Yes.
But it would be nice if they put something in for everyone, not just veterans. Like, yeah, veterans are getting burnt out, but something in for everyone so as we could all aim towards it and have something, a common goal for us all to play, and something that we can all say, oh, look, I'm after doing this and I'm after enjoying myself with my clanmates. We're all going to jump on tonight and we're going to do a full run of it. Like, raids aren't exactly enjoyable. They're basically crowd control events where you just bring a fucking Vauban, hang all the enemies up in the air, do your objectives, stand on your pads, move along, kill the end boss. That's it.
Yeah.
What you get, an RNG chance of an Arcane and chance of you getting the one that you actually want might be fucking impossible, so...
Like, I just wanna see the, like, bits and pieces here. Like, the thing is, 90% of Warframe's content between big updates are weapons and frames. And at the moment, the game doesn't even actually incentivize formatting stuff. You don't really have content outside of the star chart, other than, like, the sorties, which, okay, fair enough, and the raids, which, well, could be, to be honest, weapons are pretty much irrelevant apart from the end boss. Yeah. I just, it does, when 90% of your content is weapons, you've got to incentivize people to actually log in and max them and give them something to do with them, and you don't at the moment. Like, at the moment, I'd actually quite like to see almost like a new game plus option, where you could reset the star chart and the base planet, which I think you start off at Earth now, isn't Earth the lowest level one? But that would start at the same level the Ceres would be, and then it would scale up again. And just be able to do stuff like that. Like, and because when was the last time you were able to do, like, even from a content perspective, when was the last time you could actually record on Earth? I love that tile set. It's a beautiful tile set, but you never get to see it because, I mean, who wants to see a 5-formed weapon against a level 1 enemy? What's the point?
Yeah, because that would be the first comment you'd get. Level 1?
Yeah. Right. Well, tying a bit into what Frozen said about how DE should be looking into making more content and building on what they already have, I really hope they're focusing... I know they're working on the Twin Queens and all this stuff, but I really hope that Damage 3.0 would the promise of fixing scaling, the promise of just, having the proper damages mods for all of us, they can start actually working on the content for us to do. Like, that has to be their number one priority outside of the Twin Queens when they're done with that.
Like, that kind of ties you in what you mentioned there and what Headshot mentioned into the next topic of the whole issue with the weapons, is that we've got all of these weapons now at the minute that have multiple form on them, but since the changes to the Void, you have literally nothing in the game that can stand up to these weapons. Like, if you take your Sancti Tigris that has 4/5 form, or you take your Tonko, or you take your Tigris Prime, against anything up as far as sortie level, you can easily one-shot, two-shot everything. So it's kind of mindless just running along through a mission, bang dead, kill an enemy, and then finish the mission. There's nothing to actually challenge these weapons on. Like, there's no point in staying in a void mission now for an hour at a time, because you're not getting your values worth for the void mission. You're not getting multiple prime parts that you can either sell to players or sell as ducats. You're basically just getting resources, which chances are most people in the game have a lot of resources. So it would be nice to have something to put these weapons to the test against. Like, the whole issue of power creep with the Galatine Prime and with the Tigris Prime, like, I didn't see the point of them. Like Frozen said, he disagreed with having the Tigris as a prime weapon, and I'll hold my hand up and say the same. I didn't see why we needed a Tigris Prime. We already had the Sancti, which is an absolute monster in its own right. So why we needed a prime version of a weapon that's already one of the best in the game, I don't know. Galatine, I'll understand. There's a lot of people wanted the Galatine Prime, so that's why it's where it is. And they are mastery rank 13, so you need to be 13 to use them. So I guess that kind of negates a little bit of the power creep, because you need to be high level to use them. But there's still nothing to test these weapons against. And like, plenty of people in my video said, oh, but there's still endless survival missions. You can do endless survival missions, but the rewards aren't fucking worth it. I'm not going to stay into a mission for an hour at a time just to get some resources when I can do 2 20-minute runs and get just as much resources that way.
Exactly. It's not like the chance at 20 minutes is the same at 2,000 minutes. So you're actually better off extracting at 20 because you get the credit reward.
Yep. It's the rewards, the actual reward I want more than anything. The actual reward of knowing that you done something and you got something, whereas that just doesn't seem to be that now.
The thing with mastery rank, the thing with endless missions is that only certain amount of people do it. It's a very small percentage. Anyone who's playing this game efficiently will not go past 20 waves or 20-minute survivals. Maybe they go up to 40-minute survival, depending on who's on the team and how well geared they are. Or maybe 2,000 cryotic or something or the other, because it's more efficient restarting and redoing the run because the enemies are lower level, so you can just pump right through them. Endurance runs, it's one of those things. With the changes that came to Warframes, DE has been subtly nudging players away from doing, endurance runs. They're not saying, fuck you, stop doing endurance runs. They're like, hey guys, we've got all this content here, right? You should probably not waste your time doing endurance runs when you can play normally and get everything you want anyway, which I'm okay with. From a person who does a lot of endurance runs, I'm completely fine with that. It's not a big deal for me. It's just, after you have everything, what's the incentive? And I know I'm repeating myself and we're repeating ourselves, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining about DE, because I'm really not. Everything they've given us to this point is fucking amazing. I've enjoyed this update. I've enjoyed every single moment of this update. I'm just saying the focus now needs to be a little bit more on the veterans and content, which will keep them here. There needs to be fun and engaging combat. There needs to be fun and engaging gameplay, and at the same time being able to reward them. So on that topic, what do you guys think about if, for example, forget that. We've already talked about that. Let's talk about the final topic itself, which is the more important one as well, since John mentioned it, power creep. Is it really a bad thing in Warframe? Because considering the number of weapons that we have in this game right now, and the fact that mastery rank didn't really mean anything until fairly recently, when they started incentivizing mastery rank more and more, when it comes to, your syndicates, when it comes to, other stuff like that. Now that they started to incentivize it, I think they should actually start using the mastery rank system to lock weapons behind the mastery rank gates and keep the power creep as it is. Like, it's not that big a deal for me. But at the same time, that power creep needs to be sort of balanced. It's one of those things, it ties all together, doesn't it? Like the balancing of warframes and weapons and enemies versus power creep versus, cheesing, and all of that stuff just kind of ties in together, doesn't it? It's just one of those things.
I'll be honest, I think when the original stats got leaked of the Tigris Prime and the Galatine Prime on Reddit, I think those first set of stats that we've seen, I think that they were going to be the stats of the Galatine Prime and the Tigris Prime. But there was such a kind of well, I won't say outcry, but a lot of people give out shit saying that's too powerful, that's ridiculous power creep. And I think they toned them down a bit because of the amount of people that said it was just far too much.
To be fair, on that sort of note, I mean, DE does have a reputation of trying to troll the data miners, so it could very easily have been the case as well. But, I mean, in terms of primes, let's be honest, power creep sells. I mean, that's a very cynical way of looking at it, but it does. That is exactly what it is.
It's cynical, but it's also the proper way of looking at it, because at the end of the day, they're running a business. So,
but in my opinion, at the moment, like, does it actually matter that much? It's not like we've got any content really for this power creep to be used on.
Nope.
I've been saying it a bunch that majority of the content we do now, which is for prime bar farming, like, we don't really go past level 40, 50 enemies unless you're doing sorties, because we don't do endless survivals anymore because there's no point in it because we don't get anything out of it. So, like, the power creep doesn't matter. We're just, killing shit that we're already killing shit with, like, one shot. And with the power creep with the Tigress Prime, it's really powerful only because of the 100% status bug at the moment. Like, if they got away with that, it's barely an upgrade over a lot of the weapons we have. The Galatine Prime is a clear upgrade, but we have Syndicate weapons coming out soon, so we'll have more choices when that comes out.
The thing about the endless survival missions, like, I kind of got picked up in my video as well. I'm not saying I want the endless survival missions back either. I was basically saying that since they took them away, there just seems to be this empty spot where a lot of people used to enjoy doing that to get the value for worth out of a key, but that's not there anymore. So I'm not saying I want survivals to, like, 1 hour, 2 hour survivals back either, because let's be honest, that shit was boring as well. But there is definitely something gone or something missing from where they used to be now, because there is literally nothing that these incredibly powerful weapons can have fun with.
Yeah, because we don't stay that long, so there's no reason to take that powerful weapons. So it's just one of those things as well. So my concern, which has been mentioned, like, I'm just hoping that, whenever DE gets around to it, they will look at, like, weapon, like damage 3.0, like Max said, and they'll also look at scaling of enemies, because that definitely that should be the next thing on their radar to look at, because as far as I'm concerned, that is actually a pretty high priority topic which they need to look at. They need to look at, like, enemy scaling, and then Warframe weapon scaling, Warframe scaling as well at the same time, and, like, the balance between crit and status, because I would like to be able to be in a situation where I can take a full IPS weapon and perform just as well as a status-based weapon. I mean, crit should still pull ahead because it's a crit-based weapon, and crit tends to be higher damage anyway. But I'm not saying it should be the difference between a rabbit and a turtle race. It shouldn't be something like that. Like that much of a gap. It shouldn't be like that. Some differences, sure, I can get it. There should be cases where status weapons are more powerful. There should be weapons where outright damaging weapons are more powerful. IPS should be powerful. Now, we had this case with IPS weapons on Arkwing, where they were actually being affected the same way as elemental mods do. That's obviously been changed now. Thanks, Headshot.
My bad.
Yeah, but that's how it functioned, and a lot of people actually enjoyed it, and that's how it should function. That would actually make IPS mods useful for once. Right now, I've got no reason to use an IPS mod because elemental mods just completely trump them. Why would I bother using an IPS mod? Even though we have the 120% ones, I barely use them except on a few weapons here and there. So, it's just one of those things. There are so many systems in the game that are either half completed or just been abandoned. So, kind of need to look at those.
See, the thing is, like, right now, okay, we've got power creep of weapons and stuff, but, I mean, we do know that damage 3.0 is coming at some point. But they cannot physically, you can't touch damage without touching enemy scaling. And enemy scaling is going to mean they're going to need to tweak all the frames and weapons and everything. Like, they can't touch one aspect of that and not touch any of the rest of it. So, maybe
it's going to be a dark day.
It's going to be a very interesting time. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Doom. There's going to be doomsayers everywhere.
So well,
that happens every time. Yeah, exactly. That happens all the time anyway.
Limbo's going to become the best frame in the game.
No. Just no.
Yep. Him, Hydroid, and Oberon going to be the 3 top frames.
Yeah.
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 Please no.
So but I think more or less that's more or less all the topics that we were going to be talking about, and that's all we have time for in this particular podcast. If there's any final thoughts you guys want to end on or discuss anything.
How long has it been since we had major content?
Update 18. December last year.
10 months, 11 months, 10 months.
10 months.
10 months since we had any real content. That's a long fucking downtime, and all we're getting is weapons and frames as so-called content.
You know, it's a good thing you asked that question because I wanted to mention that earlier and I completely forgot. But Warframe is not the type of game that can go this long between major updates. You know, I played DC Universe and they used to release updates every 3 months. Then they changed it to releasing episodes every month. That obviously didn't work out for them because they were burning out the dev team, and now they're going back to the whole schedule of doing major releases every 3 months. And that kind of still works for them because they release enough content to do over the next 3 months so that they're creating the new content and the players are farming everything up and they're ready for whenever the new content comes out. There is always a carrot at the end of the stick for people to, you know, be incentivized to play. And I'm talking about veterans as well. If we had something similar with Warframe, like, okay, would you guys be opposed to the idea of something being put into the game where every single player, doesn't matter if you're a content creator, doesn't matter if you're a veteran, a new player, any person is at the same stage, everyone has to farm for it, and, you know, it's not something they'll get on the first day, they'll just have to play it on a regular basis, and they can't buy it for platinum. Like, would that something be kind of like an incentive kind of thing for people?
Yeah, if it was something that you couldn't buy for platinum, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
all real money.
The other thing that needs to happen is we've got bits and pieces that just don't seem to happen. Like, I mean, we had the Acolytes just come back. That could happen more often. When was the last time we had the Fomorian come back? Bits and pieces like that, timed stuff, actually incentivizes people to log in. Like, I don't actually trust the Steam stats anymore, to be honest, in terms of people logging in daily, because of the way the login system works.
Daily reward, just log in, log out.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I do. Because
it's concurrent, that's how it shows. It's a very interesting way to get around it, because beforehand, like, you know, if it didn't really matter if you didn't log in 3 days, but now it does. So it kind of fudges the figures a little bit. And, like, from the people I've spoken to, people are just not logging in until major updates. Weapons and frames are not exciting people anymore. They will just wait until the next major update and they'll do it then.
You log on, you get the new weapon, you level it, you log off, and you wait for the next new weapon, new frame.
Or you just wait until the next major update and then you do it all in one go then, because then at least you've got some content to do. This is why I don't agree with purely having... because I saw... I can't remember, AM Bunny, I think it was, commented on the forums, saying that events and having timed things aren't a good way of doing it, and that quests are a better way of doing things. But I disagree with that. Having a timed thing, well, that's an incentive on its own to get people logging in. Like, if it's an alert that's over the weekend that's only going to be up for 3 days, then in that 3 days you're going to log in. Like, doing a quest, you can just wait until the next major content drop, and then do it then. It doesn't incentivize you to log in, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that more or less covers everything about Warframe. Again, any other final points you guys got to say? Or is that good?
I just
No, I'm good.
Sorry.
Go on, what were you saying?
I was going to refer to your chat, who's saying Parrish is saying the event's the best part of Warframe, and I totally agree with you on that. I'm sure Tac remembers back in when the Tube Men was going on, the amount that the conversations on Twitter and all the propaganda videos and...
Yep.
Oh yeah, sure.
And good times.
We haven't had that for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Just thinking back, mentioning events. Whatever happened to that event where we wanted to like elect someone? Like, as they said something about like having a leader for the star chart or some shit, or like the system. I don't remember. It was something about that.
Trolley, was it?
I think it was, but they were saying that, so I thought maybe they were doing something big.
I have no idea.
No, well, with regards to all the stuff he's covered today, I'm happy I got the vent. So I got to get a lot of stuff off my fucking chest, so I'm good, dude.
Let me just say one thing, by the way, guys. I am not making this sound... I don't want to make it sound like we're complaining about this stuff.
But we are.
We're passionate players about Warframe. We've been playing this game for a long time. We want to see it succeed, but we also want to make sure that DE knows what's best for, well, I'm sure they know what's best for them, but it's just sometimes, so that they don't lose sight of it. They still pay attention and they remember that, there is a Warframe veteran community as well, which is very disgruntled right now, and they would like some love. They're kind of like my puppy. They're like my dog Cherub, where we basically like them, and they come. We need some love, we need some attention, and that's all. We just want some of that.
Veterans are people too.
Well, I was going to say huskies, but that works too.
If we didn't care about the game, we wouldn't be doing stuff like this, talking about how we would
We'd
like
be
to
making
see things
videos
improve.
and shit talking to devs, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I think that more or less covers every topic which we want to talk about today. Thank you very much for being here, guys, for part of the Suddenly Tenno Podcast. It's kind of good to bring it back again. We will be back again in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be we will be keeping the schedule for the next.
Words are easy.
Yeah, I know, man. I know it's not my first language, man. Come on, be good. Anyway, this is this has been the Suddenly Tenno Podcast with Frozen Balls, Headshot, TacticalPotato, and Nesomeer.
Wait, you said you were paying us 2,000 platinum to take part in this, didn't you?
Wait, what?
Yeah,
You said you were paying all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said
Me, Headshot, and Mac.
at the end of it.
Oh no, you don't know. You said you were gonna.
Headshot said he'll cover the money thing. We'll talk about that later. Bye bye.
Okay.
Anyway. Anyway, thank you very much for being here for part of the actual podcast itself. I will be streaming again tomorrow, but we will be continuing with the podcast in a couple of weeks. This will be uploaded to the various YouTube channels which you see on stream. So if you want to check it out after, or if you want to, put comments, if you guys have any questions, if you have any ideas or anything you want to talk about, feel free to put them in the comments of the actual videos itself. I'll upload this afterwards anyway to YouTube itself, but it doesn't really matter. But the point is, it will be on YouTube, so you can check it out there as well. Again, thank you very much for being here. It was very fun to be here and be able to do this again, and I'll see you guys next time.
Bye.